All right, so we're going to stay with some legal matters at the SAWA. The Section 194 committee probing the fitness of suspended public protector advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office has sustained the charges of incompetence and misconduct against her. The committee has finalised its draft report, which it will adopt before giving it to Mkhwebane, perhaps for her written input. So for the report of the committee to be adopted by the National Assembly, it must be supported by a two-thirds majority. So for this and more, we're going to be joined by legal analyst Sinawo Makangela to unpack these developments. Sinawo, good afternoon, and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon, Lizelle, and the viewers at home.
So I just want to get your inputs, perhaps, on the public protector's removal from office. We've seen this has been a heavily litigated, delayed and politicized process. And with Section 194 committee now coming out to say that they will sustain the charges against the suspended public protector, were there any surprises? Perhaps we could get your reactions on the back of the recommendations issued earlier on.
Well, my understanding is that there are no recommendations yet. However, the committee has undertook to complete that task before the end of the week, and then give the suspended public protector an opportunity to comment before it can finalize its report that it will submit to the National Assembly. Remember, we said when it started the process that there's going to be litigation, and there has always been an indication that there's going to be litigation. We all know that the standing of the chairperson, his impartiality has been questioned, so it's telling that for any findings, those findings will be challenged in court. We know that, remember, this is the first of its own kind in our constitutional democracy. So it's trial and error kind of a process, but finally it has reached its conclusion. But have all the processes been followed? What becomes of the issues that have been raised? We know that centrally, when it was approaching its conclusion, there was a question of legal representation by the former public protector, to the extent that as things stand, the committee does not have her version in relation to various charges against her, because at the time those charges, or when she was expected to respond, she did not have a legal representation. So she could not participate in the process. So what it means is that now there's only one version before the committee. So for whatever decision, those versions, those allegations have not been challenged. So I can say in a way clearly that it would be difficult for the committee to find against those allegations.
Sinawo, we were starting to hear you a little bit, but thank you for the sentiments. Just on the back of what you echoed, I want to pick up of whether, in your opinion, for the report of the committee now to be adopted by the National Assembly, it must be supported by two-thirds majority. Do you think they're going to reach that threshold? And really, what is the implication for the institution itself going forward as well?
No, if you look at starting from the decisions of the courts, as well as the charges, how they are structured, they do pose some limits into the public protector. Any person will be occupying that office. One may not act freely, because we will know that should you not succeed, if you are taking anyone, the big guns, into task, once you are challenged and you fail in court, you will face personally the consequences, not your office. So it does affect how the incumbent will be performing his or her functions. So it does limit in a way. So it says at all times, the public protector will have to approach his or her work with a very serious caution. We all know that for as long as you are doing your work within the ambits of the law, in the process, there would have been some of those mistakes. There would have been some of those errors that you'll commit. Some would call for the courts to come and intervene. But in this case, you don't know under what circumstances will you be called to pay for those expenses should you not succeed. So it will affect definitely how the Office of the Public Protector functions.
If we shine a spotlight on the suspended public protector's legal defense, some alluding to the fact that they were employing Stalingrad strategies. How would you weigh in on those sentiments, perhaps also as her term comes to an end, inevitably in October?
Yes, they said it. Well, that's subjective. Telling that can be subjective in a way. Because if she says she was called to answer to an evidence that has been given for a period of 6 months, and then she was given 30 days, there would be some semblance of sense in that statement. It would not be entirely correct. But of course, with some of the issues then that the committee feel in its own, when it has assessed that really there is no objectivity that would cause them not to proceed in some days, then I think it would be acceptable to say that's maybe it's a Stalingrad approach, the new term. But you must understand that she is one person. She had to respond to the 6th report, HR issues, the litigation, all those various allegations. And with each allegation, there was not less than 2 witnesses that were called to come and testify in Parliament. So whenever she responds, she has to respond in detail to all the allegations as per each witness that has been called by the evidence leaders of the committee.
Once as the new selection process for the public protector gets underway, what lessons can be learned here? And given its vital role as a government watchdog, how can the selection process be improved at this point?
Well, some institutions have commended the president for appointing a committee just to ensure that the process was above board when he appointed the NDPP. So some are calling for that kind of a process so that it can be, again, an above process. The public protector can be owned by South Africans so that everyone can understand that that appointment has not been influenced by any external forces, but a committed person gets to be appointed to perform the task, to protect the public, as the office says, the public protector. I think some have made those calls again to say, President, what you did in the NDPP appointment process, if you can do it even now, I think would get a suitable candidate to occupy that important office.
All right, we're going to leave that conversation there, Sinawo, and thank you for your time with us on the SABC, for really weighing in on the back of what has transpired. We saw Section 194 committee probing the fitness of suspended public protector advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office. They have now come out to say that they will be sustaining the charges of incompetence and misconduct against legal analyst Sinawo Makangela, unpacking what that ultimately means for the office at large and for the suspended public protector. Thank you to Sinawo for his time with us here on the SABC.